Hello everyone. So our today's topic is the pelvic bone, that is the female pelvic bone. So the definition of the female pelvic bone is it is a skeletal ring formed by the two illuminate bone, or it is also known as the hip bones and the sacrum and the coccyx. So there are two illuminate bones, one on each side, a sacrum and the coccyx that togetherly forms a pelvic bone that is in a skeletal ring form. Now there are types of the pelvic bones. There are total four types of the pelvic bones that forms the pelvis, and that is two hip bones that are the illuminant bone, one sacrum and one coccyx. So here in the figure there is an anterior view as well as the posterior view. In the anterior view, the parrot indicator bone, that is the sacrum bone, the ilium, the pubis and the ischium. So the ilium, pubis and the ischium togetherly form one illuminant bone on the each side, and same as in the opposite side, and that two illuminant bone is being joined with the pubic symphysis bone, and the lower part of the sacrum, that is the coccyx. Now two illuminant bones. As we've seen in the picture, that illuminant bone is made up of three bones, that is the ilium, ischium, pubic bone. So this three bone togetherly forms one illuminant bone. Now the bone ilium. So the ilium has the following parts, that is the iliac crust, that is the upper border of the ilium bone. Then the concave border, that is the iliac fossa, that part is in a concave shape. Then anterior superior iliac spine. So here there is at the end part of the iliac crest there is a protruding bone that is called anterior superior iliac spine, and below that there is an anterior inferior iliac spine. And same as this too, there is a posterior view. From the posterior view, this prominent part, the protruding part, is known as the posterior superior iliac spine, and this lower one is known as posterior inferior iliac spine. Now, ischium. The ischium is the thick lower part of the hip bone that includes the part that are the acetybulum, ischial tuberosity, ischial spine, the greater sciatic notch, lesser sciatic notch, and the actuator foramen. So the acetybulum is a foramen where the femur bone of the leg, that is the thigh bone, is being articulated in the acetybulum. Then ischial tuberosity, ischial spine, and obturator foramen. So this is the obturator foramen. Now the concave part at the obturator foramen is known as ischiopubic ramus, and this is the iliac spine. This is the iliac spine is the part of the ischia. Now sacrum. So the sacrum bone is a wedge-shaped bone made up of five fused bones. So the five bones that togetherly forms the sacrum are the sacral promontory, sacroiliac joint, wings of the sacrum, or it is also known as the ala of the sacrum, hollow of the sacrum that is in a concave shape. So here in the figure, the yellow indicator is the sacral promontory. This is the sacrum bone, and by the side of the sacrum bone there is a wing shaped structure that is known as the wing of the sacrum, or it is also known as the ella of the sacrum. And here there are anterior sacral foramens. Foramens means the opening or the hole. So this anterior sacral foramen, as well as there is a posterior sacral foramen in the posterior view. So this anterior as well as the posterior sacral foramen helps, or the main function of this is to pass the uterine veins that helps to supply the blood to the pelvic organs as well as the uterus. Now the coccyx. So the COCCYX is a vestigial tail that exists of four fused vertebrae forming a small triangular bone. So there are four fused vertebral column bones that together forms a triangle shaped bone, and that is a COCCYX, and that gets articulated with the sacrum. And this COCCYX slowly moves back during the process of the childbirth or during the labor process. Now the pelvic joints. So there are total four pelvic joints. There are that are two sacroiliac joints, one pubic symphysis joint, and one sacrophageal joint. Now the two sacroiliac joint is the joint that is present between the sacrum bone and the ilium bone. The pubic symphysis bone joint is a bone that is present between the two innominate bone and gaps makes the two innominate bone as a joint form. One sacrophageal joint. So this is the joint that is present between the sacrum as well as the coccyx that makes head connect each other. Now sacroiliac joint. This is a slightly amoeboid joint and that forms where the ilium joints of the first two sacral vertebrae on the either side means this joint is present on each side of the bone, and they connect to the spine to the pelvis and are one of the strongest joints that are present in the body. Now one pubic symphysis bone, as we uh, as we learned that it is a joint that is present between the two innominate joint, and this pubic symphysis joint helps to connect the two innominate joint with this pubic symphysis bone. Now one sacrophageal joint, that is one hinge joint between the sacrum bone and the coccyx bone. Now there are ligaments. So there are ligaments as follow: sacroiliac ligament, pubic ligament, sacrotuberous ligament, sacrospinous ligament, and sacrophageal ligament. So the sacroiliac ligament are the ligaments that are present in front as well as behind the sacroiliac joint. Now the pubic ligament that connects at the top of the pubic bone, and the sacrotuberous ligament is the one of the ligament on each side and run from the sacrum till the ischial tuberosity. So from the sacrum bone till the ischium bone. Now sacrospinous ligament, that is one of the ligament on each side of the sacrum and the ischial spine. So this is from the sacrum bone till the ischial spine. Now sacrophageal ligament, that is one of the ligament on each side from the sacrum to the coccyx. Now types of the structure of the pelvis. So there are two, that is false pelvis and the true pelvis. Now the false pelvis, it is formed by the upper flat outer portion of the ilium bone, that is the ilium crust, and the main function of the false pelvis is to protect the abdominal organs, and it doesn't have any obstacle importance during the childbirth as well as as a landmark for the external pelvimetry. Now true pelvis. So the true pelvis is a kind of a bony canal or a bony canal structure that helps to pass the fetus out during the childbirth. Now there are three parts of the true pelvis. That is the brim, the cavity, and the outlet. So the brim is also known as the inlet. So there are three parts of the true pelvis, that is brim or inlet, cavity, and outlet. Now here are the measurements of the pelvis bone according to the parts of the bone. So this is the brim, this is the cavity, and this is the outlet. So here, okay. Anterior posterior means from the symphysis pubis till the sacrum bone. From the symphysis till the sacrum promontory, that is in anterior posterior measurement. Now in oblique. Oblique means a slant measurement, and transverse means from, this is the transverse measurement. So in brim, the anterior posterior measurement is 11. In brim, oblique measurement is 12, and the transverse one is 13. In cavity, the anterior posterior is 12 and oblique even 12 and transverse is also 12. So in cavity, all the measurements are 12 centimeter. Now in outlet. In outlet, the anterior posterior measurement is 13, oblique is 12 and transverse one is 11. Now the pelvic brim, or it is also known as the pelvic inlet. So it is formed by the sacrum posteriorly, the iliac bones laterally, and the pubic bones anteriorly. So, as in posterior view, it is formed by the sacrum, as in the lateral view, it is formed by the iliac or the iliac bone, and as in anterior aspect, it is formed by the pubic bones. Now the shape, it is almost in a round shape with the anterior posterior diameter being the shortest. Okay, so in the brain, the anterior posterior diameter is very short, and the boundaries are the sacral promontory and the wings of the sacrum or the ala of the sacrum, behind the iliac bones on the sides and the pubic bones in the front. So, as in the boundary, there is sacral promontory and the ala of the sacrum or the wings of the sacrum. From behind it, the bones is the iliac one, and in front of that there are pubic bones. So, these togetherly forms a pelvic plane. Now, the diameters of the pelvic plane that are anterior, posterior, transverse, and oblique. So here, look, this is the transverse, this is the anterior posterior diameters, and this is the oblique one. This is the right one, and this is left oblique measurements that are being measured in the pelvic brain. Now the anterior posterior measurement. The anterior posterior measurement is about 11 centimeter. So this measures from the sacral promontory to the upper border of the symphysis pubis. And there are three types of diameter present in the anterior posterior diameters. This is the diagonal conjugate, obstacle conjugate, and root conjugate. In diagonal conjugate, there is a distance between lower border of the symphysis pubis to the midpoint on the sacral promontory. So, from the lower border, means the lower part of the symphysis pubis, till the midpoint of the sacral promontory. So here we'll see in the figure. So this is the sacral promontory. From the middle point of the sacral promontory, that is this point, from there till the symphysis pubis lower part. Okay, symphysis pubis lower part. So from here, we have to take the measurement till the symphysis pubis lower part. So that measurement is called a diagonal conjugate. Same, there is an obstacle conjugate. It is the distance that is measured between the midpoint of the sacral promontory to the prominent bony projection that is in the midline of the symphysis pubis. So from the midpoint of the sacral promontory, we have to take measurement till the midpoint of the symphysis pubis, and that measures about 12 centimeter. 10 centimeter. The true conjugate, it extends from the sacral promontory to the top of the symphysis pubis. Okay, so from sacral promontory till the top of the symphysis pubis, the measurement is called true conjugate, and the normal measurement is 11 centimeter or more. So in diagonal, from the sacral promontory to the symphysis pubis lower part, that is 12 centimeter. In obstetrical conjugate, the distance between the midpoint of the sacral promontory to the bony projection or the midpoint of the symphysis pubis, that measures about 10 centimeter. In true conjugate, from the sacral promontory to the top of the symphysis pubis, that is about 11 centimeter. Now the transverse. This was the anterior posterior, that was 11 centimeter. Now the transverse centimeter, that is 13 centimeter. It is the distance that is being measured at the two farthest point on the pelvic brim above the iliopectineal lines. So these are the two farthest point on the pelvic brim through the iliopectineal lines that measures about 13 centimeter. The oblique one is about 12 centimeter and that starts from the sacroiliac joint. The sacroiliac joint is one where the sacrum as well as the ilium gets fused or joined to the so it starts from the sacroiliac joint to the opposite of iliopubic eminence. So the iliopubic eminence is the part where the ilium and the pubis bone gets joined at the that is an iliopubic eminence. So from the iliosacroiliac joint till the iliopubic eminence, the measurement is known as the oblique measurement and that measures about 12 centimeters. Now the pelvic cavity. So this was the pelvic plane. Now the pelvic cavity. The cavity extends from the brim above to the outlet below. So it is above the brim and below the outlet. So the cavity is above the brim and below the outlet. Now the shape of the pelvic cavity is almost round in shape and that consists of the following borders as well as the bone. Anterior border, so the anterior border of the pelvic cavity is the symphysis pubis. The posterior border of the pelvic cavity is the sacral hollow. Lateral border are made up of the soft tissues and the all diameters of this pelvic cavity measures 12 centimeter. That is the anterior posterior transverse as well as the oblique one measures about 12 centimeter. Now the pelvic outlet. So in pelvic outlet there is anatomical outlet that consists of the lower borders of the all bones and the sacrotuberous ligament. So all the lower borders of the pelvic bone consist of these bones and it consists of the lower border of symphysis, pubis, sacropophageal joint and sacroischial spine. So this lower border of symphysis pubis, the sacropophageal joint where the sacrum and the coccyx gets joined, and the sacroischial spine. So we have seen in the figure where the ischial spine is. So this togetherly forms the lower border of the outlet. Now the shape. It is anterior posteriorly oval in shape. Now this was the anatomical outlet. This is obstetrical outlet. So this outlet has a greater practical significance or importance because it includes a very narrow pelvic strait through which the fetus or the baby must pass. It is otherwise known as a bony outlet also. And the shape of this outlet is in a diamond shape. Now here are the types of the pelvis. So there are total 4 types of the pelvis bone, that is gynecoid. So first figure is gynecoid, the anthroid one, the android and the platypelloid. And gynecoid, anthropoid, android and platypelloid. So gynecoid pelvis, it is about 50% of females have the gynecoid types of pelvis present in them. It is commonly known as the female pelvis because that type occurs most frequent in the women. This is the pelvis bone that is most suitable for the childbirth process and the BRIM. So here is the BRIM. So this pelvic type of pelvis bone has got the BRIM much wider than the other one. So the ischial spines. So here are this point is the ischial spines are the blunt. Blunt means without sharpness. Now anthropoid pelvis, that is about 25% of pelvis is being found in the female. It favors a posterior position of the fetus. So in the sense of posterior position of the fetus means this is the symphysis pubis bone. See, this is the symphysis pubis bone. And here, imagine there is a baby in a posterior view. So the baby's vertebral column will be attached to the symphysis pubis, means facing to the symphysis pubis. So this type of bone is mostly favorable to the posterior position of the fetus baby. Now oval in shape. So the shape is an oval shape and the transverse diameter is very short. So here the transverse diameter is very short. Now this type of pelvis is mostly seen in the tall woman and the woman with a narrow shoulders. Now, android pelvis, it is commonly known as the male pelvis because this type of pelvis is more frequently seen in the male or man. So, this type of pelvis is in heart shape. The brim is in a heart shape. The diameter of the anterior posterior is very shorter just because of the heart shaped brim. Now the transverse diameter is wider as compared to the other types of pelvis, and the childbirth is very difficult for this type of pelvis. Now platypelloid, that is also known as the flat pelvis. This type of pelvis is very rare and the shape is in kidney shape. The brim's shape is in kidney shape. The anterior posterior diameter is very small as in it has a kidney shape. So the transfer diameter is wider as compared to all the rest of three diameters. Sorry, rest of three pelvic bones, and not conductive to the vaginal delivery. So that is not favorable or not suitable for a vaginal delivery. Thank you.